Welcome back to the second part of the Seed to Live Rosin series. Today we are in the lab with Fish Arm Farm. Let's go over a quick tour of what we have going on here. We will start with the reverse osmosis watering system that feeds the entire reservoir tank. This is our choice for the cleanest water. This tank is utilized as the main source for all of the water for this process. We rely on this tank to keep the water around 32 degrees to help aid in making trichome heads easier to remove. The whole room is being cooled down by multiple AC units. We are sitting at about 40 degrees right now. The cooler the room, the easier it is to work with trichome heads and vice versa. For anyone who's worked with trichome heads and specifically bubble hash, you know how sticky this can become at higher temperatures. Today, we are using the Press Club 40 to 160 micron bubble bags. We also have 5 20-gallon Bubble Magic washing machines to aid in the agitation process. Following through the lab, we have our press station, which I will gladly go over in more detail during the final press. Finally, you will see our freeze dryer, which is made by Harvest Right, and also our deep freezer to help store all of the material. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and dive right into the live rosin making process. Starting off right where we left off in the first part of this series, we have our fresh frozen material. This was harvested and then directly vacuum sealed and stored into a deep freezer until processing time. This is Bloom Genetics Grapefruit Guava Time Straw Guava. Today, we will be doing 2 separate washes, one mix run of all of my phenos of the Grapefruit Guava Time Straw Guava, and then one run of my selected pheno from this hunt, which is dubbed Ruby Red due to her insane sweet grapefruit terp profile. For exact returns, we like to weigh everything out before we get started. Our final count, as you will see for this run, was 1,520 grams for the mix wash, and then finally 685 grams for Ruby Red. Absolutely blown away from our returns from this harvest, and I am beyond excited to get started. So let's go ahead and dive right into the live rosin making process. Currently, our goal is to get this water as cold as possible without freezing, which is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. This allows the best chance for trichome heads to break off the stalks. Think of how caramel is when it's warm versus when it's cold. It's easier to break when cold. An ideal trichome for washing is a fat bulbous head with a short stalk. We've placed the fresh frozen material in our wash bags, and we are going to go ahead and gently submerge them in our bubble machines. We've got our agitation strength set to light to moderate for this first wash. A 15-minute timer will let us know when it's time to collect. With the alarm sounding, it is officially time to start our first collection. We are going to start draining the water from the bubble machines through our collection bags. These bags are connected to a 50-gallon container with a sump pump to get rid of all the excess water in a smooth, quick fashion. Once when the bubble machines have been empty, we start with the unwanted material. We are using a sprayer which is directly connected to the ice-cold 32-degree reservoir tank. We start by spraying the sides of each bag and work our way down to the middle. We do this to work any wanted material that was caught in the bags to the next micron bag below. We then flip each bag and spray them out. Once done, we reverse stack them so they stay in order for the next wash. After repeating these steps, we will finally get to our collection micron sizes. We have selected 45 micron through 160 micron, which is known as a full spectrum, meaning you get all the cannabinoids the plant has to offer. When collecting, pull the bag as tight to the bucket as you can so you can easily get under all the material in one easy go. If you notice closely, even our collection tools are sitting in ice cold water. You truly want everything to be 32 degrees, even down to the tools you are using. We have found this spatula to be the best when aiding in this task. Once collected, we will store it in the freeze dryer and keep adding to it as we process the rest of the material. We are going to repeat these steps until the material has given up most of its trichome heads. Let's go over the press setup really quick before we go any further. We are working with a Low Temp Industries V2 that has the 5x7 plates. This is paired with the pneumatic foot pedal control. This is all controlled in real time with the help of the LT3 controller, which is a gem of this setup. It connects directly to the computer so we can watch the pressure readout in real time to make sure the press is completely done. Let's go ahead and get some items prepared before we press. We are going to start off by getting a vacuum sealed bag ready for all the bags we are going to press. The bags we are using today are made by Low Temp Industries. Their slogan is "By hash makers, for hash makers." These are 3x6 bags at a micron size of 25. Next, let's open the freeze dryer. As you guys can tell, the material has completely changed. We are just checking for any moisture pockets and to make certain that everything has been dried to our standards. Everything looks great, so we can go ahead and move on to the next step. We are going to take this material and sift it. We are doing this in the freezer to keep the trichomes as cold as possible. This allows us to work with them in this cooperative state. We are just using the back end of a spoon as our tool of choice. Let the weight of the spoon do the work for you. Once sifted, we will weigh it out for the final return numbers. Then we will place them directly into the press bags. When placing the bubble hash into the bags, we are going to do a double bag technique. This overall will greatly help strengthen the bag, which in turn helps reduce blowout accidents. Next, we will flatten all the trichomes out to ensure an even distribution of pressure during the press. Finally, we will vacuum seal all the bags to remove any excess air and help aid in the distribution of bubble hash evenly. After doing so, we will then allow the bags to grease up before pressing, which is allowing them to come up to temperature. While we're allowing the hash to come up to temperature, let's go ahead and do some directional folds for the press. These folds are amazing and help direct the flow of rosin for a nice, easy cleanup. After about 120 seconds, the bubble hash is officially greased up and we can officially begin the fun part of pressing. As you guys can tell, the trichomes have already changed colors from greasing up and you get that more traditional rosin look. We are going to press each bag with the seams facing each corner of the bag and the no seam side facing towards us. Most of the time, the seam is the first thing to give out in a blowout. We will then allow the bags to warm up against the plate for about 30 seconds, and then finally begin our press. Today, we are pressing at 185 degrees Fahrenheit with a maximum timer of 3 minutes and 30 seconds. We stop the press when we see on the computer data that the press in its entirety is done. We see this through a graph. This graph shows us a step-stair curve. When pressure builds, the curve correlates, and when pressure is released, you see a dip in that curve. That release pressure is rosin flowing. When we no longer see steady drops, we know that the press is completed. After that press, let's go ahead and show you guys the B-roll footage from the rest of these presses. After pressing, we will begin the collection process. The easiest way to do this is to find a cold hard surface. This will allow the rosin to cool and make it easier to collect. We like to roll the rosin up the way it came down the wax paper. We will use our fingers and then utilize a dab tool to place it in an airtight container for cold curing. I prefer to cold cure most of my live rosin. I find it to be my preferred terp profile preference. Currently, the state of rosin is in fresh press form. To cold cure, simply place the jars between 40 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. The colder the room, the faster the cure, and maximum terpene preservation. I cold cure until my desired consistency or nose preference. Finally, let's try this amazing live rosin. We are going to be test tasting this live for you guys. The smell off these jars is insane. The grapefruit mix wash, I am getting grapefruit, strawberry, and guava tart juices. I have nicknamed this wash Beach Juice. The taste profile puts me on your favorite beach with a fruit drink in my hand. The ruby red was hands down my favorite concentrate terp profile to date. She reeks of sweet grapefruits and taste of grapefruit Skittles. I have decided to keep this pheno and have dubbed her Grapefruit Rush. I want to give a huge shout out to Fish Arm Farms. Thank you so much, my friend. And to all of you watching, comment below what's your favorite concentrate.